welcome again to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. I'm excited today to have Saluki Football coach Nick Hill here. Coach, welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I want to give a shout out to Ross Swinford and Swinford Media Group. I want to welcome Abby today. She's behind the scenes also helping out. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising for sponsoring and being a part of my fundraising needs for so long. And we've already had some coaches who've watched this and reached out to them and got set up for their fundraiser. And I want to thank Crown Brew for letting us use this facility here near closing time and giving us a great environment to talk coaching. And it's great to have you, Coach. I'm excited. I told you beforehand, people always ask, who's your next guest? Who's your next guest? I say, this time I said, well, it's Nick Hill. And there was a lot of excitement about a conversation you and I can have. And I want to start off, if you don't mind, with a little bio. And we're going to talk about some of these things in a little more detail, but you grew up in DuQuoin. You're a local product. I was running through my list of interviews so far, and the vast majority are local products, not all. You played for Al Martin, the legendary Al Martin. You were a outstanding basketball and football player in high school, and player of the year in basketball. Football, you went to a 3A championship in 2002. Went to Western Kentucky to play basketball. We'll talk about that decision. Came back and played at SIU, played football under Coach Kill. 2006, you became the starter, set records for passing yards, completion percentage, made the Final Four in 2007. I love the story here, defeated Indiana in 2007. First time a Saluki team beat a Big Ten team, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Threw 4 touchdown passes in that game, so go Salukis, that's awesome. Lost to Joe Flacco, who was at Delaware at the time in the semifinals. That was a great game.
Joe's still playing.
Yeah, he's still playing. Yeah, that's crazy. Peyton Award finalist, 6 professional seasons. You played for Jay Gruden, which is a really cool story. Went on to be a head coach for Washington. Played for the Bears in 2008, the Packers in 2012. We'll talk about that a little bit. Had a high school coaching period of time in Florida, I believe.
Yeah. And
also at Carbondale High School for a season. I read this. I got excited because it says your background was in the air raid, which is my offensive background. So I like to throw that around. Let's see, TD pass record, threw for 498 yards per game. When you were coaching, as an offensive coordinator, you led them to a very high-scoring offense. Mark Ionati led the nation in total offense under your offensive leadership. 2016 set a record for completions, attempts, yards, top 10 nationally. You running the offense, became a head coach at SIU. Is 2016 correct, the right year?
Yeah.
Yes. And you have gone on to transform the program back to an extremely high-level coach. Final 8 in 2020, Final 16 in 21, 2023, 8-5, Final 16, 5 NFL players under your leadership, a 10-6 record against ranked teams. I love this. You've beaten a number 1 rank, a 2 rank, a 3 rank, and a number 4 ranked team. And this is huge. This year, you were awarded the Grant Taft FCA Coach of the Year Award. Congratulations for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And that is a big deal. We'll talk about that towards the end. So, that's a lot of good stuff right there,
Yeah.
Coach. That's a lot of good stuff, man. I took that right off the website, and that's pretty awesome. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about growing up in DuQuoin, great sports town, and playing for Al Martin.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm excited that I got chose to be a guest on this. I've listened to a lot of them, and sometimes it's humbling to listen to the bios whenever I go speak. That's like the worst part.
It
is
is
sitting there and listening to all those things.
The coaches hate it.
I know. But no, I think DuQuoin, man. I would tell everybody. I think now that people that know me know how much I love DuQuoin.
Yeah.
Just the town and what it means to me. I just feel like a normal person in DuQuoin.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity to grow up there. It's one of those things, like as a man of faith, just the blessing it was to grow up there, and
Sure.
the discipline and the things that in a small town, the values that instills. And so I'm blessed. That's why I still live there, to be here and be 38 years old and coaching Division I football, but still get to live in your same hometown. It's is pretty unique and a blessing for sure. But growing up in DuQuoin and then getting to play for Coach Martin, was just now looking back at 38, I think it was probably the biggest blessing of my life, really, just playing for that man. I've met and been coached by and then now coaching with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And, as a young coach, you think, man, I would do it this way and I would do it that way. And it really just the values that Al Martin had. And I know you got to talk with him. It was a great interview. It's just great. He's so uncomfortable even wanting to talk about himself. And that's just who he is. Yeah. And I think when, like you said, a lot of people don't know, but what I learned most from Al Martin, especially reflecting back, I think you grow up not idolizing him, but like wanting to play for him, as a young kid. Yeah. Like it meant a lot like that, Al Martin knew who you were. And that's probably the reason why I played football. I was a basketball guy, but it was like I wanted to make him proud and have an opportunity. But just now looking back and special education teacher, and now when you think back and you're thinking about him running out to practice, being almost late to practice times. And it's like the assistant coaches would get you going in stretch lines. Where's the head coach? He's spending time with the kids in his class, shop class. And he would explain that to us, and thinking back now, what a great example he set for us of he would always tell us classes, I'm a teacher first. And so those kids in my class are just as important to me as you guys are. And this is a guy that, by the time I got there, won state championships and all this stuff. And just, the humbleness and just the old school mentality that he had, I think has shaped me in the way that I want to treat people and do right. And so looking back, just an honor to be, molded by him.
And that's an awesome tribute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so well said. He was on. I didn't know if he would even agree to do it.
Yeah.
And he did.
I know. And he did it.
I think as the interview went, he got better and better, more comfortable. I think. And I feel so fortunate and so blessed that he was willing to share because he is a very special guy. And I'm glad we got to see that side of him in the interview about how important
he did a great
teaching
job.
was. Well,
the questions. And I got one quick story. He mentioned it on when you talked to him whenever, he played at Murray.
Yeah.
And coach isn't good on text messages. But Sharon, his wife, I'll get texts throughout the week, hey, I'm proud of you. And again, tough losses, you know, but it'll say from Coach and Sharon because I know she's writing the text messages. But that Murray game, and I told our staff this, and because I was sitting there and he literally came out to the field, he just comes walking out. We're at warm-ups at Murray State. They were down there doing their reunion, and I don't think he even realizes what it meant to me, but still when your coach tells you I'm proud of you.
Yes.
I was tearing up out there. I had to take a second, just it made me. We were just coming off a tough loss to Youngstown State, probably one of the toughest losses that I've had as a coach this season. And for Coach Martin to be there, I just feel like it. God had him in my life. He comes out. It's right before we're about to play.
Yeah.
He gives you a hug and it's I'm proud of you. It still means a lot to me.
And the moment you get in the presence of your head coach, you're 17 again.
You really are.
Seriously.
You really are.
You can be 38, but you're 17 again.
There's no doubt.
I've often said I would never imagine playing football again, but if my head coach said, Kerry, we need to put the pads on one more time and go replay that Mount Carmel game, he's about the only guy I might consider it because that's the influence he had on me. So I share that with my coach as well, and I appreciate you sharing that tribute to him because it's awesome. Any thoughts? You played in the championship in 2002. Who did you play?
We played Elmhurst Immaculate Conception.
Oh wow!
Got beat 21-14.
Close game.
We had the lead. They came back. They had some good athletes on that. Yeah, that's a tough not winning that thing. And I tell people this came up in recruiting. When guys maybe not finishing out playing basketball, and I'm an advocate for I want to see those kids go and compete,
Yeah.
and maybe see how they are when they're not the best player on the team. Maybe basketball, you've already signed a scholarship in football, but why not play your senior year? Those are your high school teammates. And maybe you're not the leading scorer, but I want to see, like, do you still compete and the love to win? And that was me my senior year. I signed in the early basketball signing period with Western Kentucky. That's in September. So I was like week 2 or week 3, I'm having a basketball signing. And so stats, any of that my senior year in football, they were irrelevant to me. Yeah. I didn't care. I was going to play basketball. Like, I wanted to make the town proud. My teammates, my best friends are out there. It was really about trying to finish the job and win a championship. Like, I could have I could have tore my ACL and lost my basketball scholarship or whatever. And that wasn't ever in my mindset. It's like, I'm going to go out here and compete. And hopefully those basketball coaches that recruited me appreciated that too.
The coaches I talk to, and I'm sure you've had the same experiences, they love those multi-sport competitive people. And that is a great story, because you had in today's world, a lot of young men choose the opposite reaction to that. And I love the fact, town, Coach Martin, teammates, no question, I'm playing ball. Yeah, that's great. You were very good in basketball, obviously player of the year. And was it a tough decision between football or basketball, or was basketball with the better offers?
No, I think it was never even in my mind to play football. I can remember, I was just dead set. I enjoyed playing football. I had a love for it. And I think when it was taken away from me, I realized, like, how much I really enjoyed the game and the camaraderie, and maybe some too that, I was a 6'3" guy that couldn't dunk, and I was probably going to max out my, I was playing and on scholarship and all that kind of stuff. But, what if? And I don't know. I think my faith, that was a big jump, especially when I just gave up basketball, because there's a lot of unknown there. And so, but in high school, I never went to one football camp in my high school career. No prospect camps, no anything. I went to team camp at Eastern Illinois with the team only my senior year. I started from my sophomore year, junior year, senior year in football at quarterback, but I only went to team camp my senior year. Again, I had to not go to an AAU basketball tournament. Had Division I offers and stuff, but again, it was like, I felt like I was letting Coach Martin down. He would never tell me that. Yeah. And so my parents and I were like, we're not going to go to this tournament. You're going to stay in the dorm. You're going to Eastern football camp. Yeah, with and those are some of the best memories I still have as Eastern. So, but that was I never went to an individual, no junior days, no anything for football.
You see it a lot in sports, though, that players are always looking for the next level and not appreciating where they're at right now. And I'm sure with the portal situation and people opting out and not playing in a bowl game because of the draft. And as an old wise guy, I'm thinking they're missing some of the most amazing memories they're ever going to make that you don't appreciate them at that time maybe in your life. But boy, I'm so glad you took advantage of that, and you knew at a young age, this is something I want to do. And now you look back pretty fondly. I know when you went to Western to play basketball, there's a story, you broke your hand. Mm-hmm. Was that a part of the decision to not play basketball anymore? Was there an epiphany kind of moment there? Was that related to your decision, or was that just part of the story?
No, I think these are a couple stories I don't know a lot of people know. I think so. I get to Western Kentucky, and the coach that I had originally signed with, Dennis Felton, got the job at Georgia. Darren Horn became the head coach, and now especially as a coach. But I went down there, and it was a great program. And so I'm a true freshman, and looking back, I don't know, probably should have redshirted, but I was playing a little bit, and we were at VCU in a non-conference. I was playing like 8-10 minutes a game. This is early. It's my true freshman year. I was getting in, but I was just trying to find my way. I realized early, like, I was going to have to be like I'm going to have to do something to make them keep playing extremely hard, blocking out, being detailed in the game plan. Like, I'm going to, all these things in film, I see these starters getting in trouble for, not rotating, not blocking out. I'm used to scoring 28 points a game. Yeah. Like, now it's like, this is how I'm going to find the floor. and I went and dove for a loose ball at VCU, and I broke my hand. And I didn't need surgery, but it made me miss, I think it was like 4 weeks, 3.5, 4 weeks. And because I remember the game that I came back was Illinois State. And so most of the time right there or now, I would have maybe redshirted or whatever, but I came back and I played the rest of the season. So I got to, play down the stretch and do those type of things. So that didn't really have, but
yeah.
Jerry Kill was the guest speaker at our all sports banquet when I was a senior. And, obviously he had offered me to come and play in football, but I never entertained it or came down and saw him or anything, but he was the guest speaker. So, and Coach Kill, like he, during his talk, started to kind of allude that the player of the year here might need to be down to Carbondale. I'm going to Western Kentucky. And after that, he told me, I remember, and I still have a picture with Coach Kill because he was the guest speaker and I was the athlete of the year. And we have that picture. I'm 18. And he was like, if you ever decide to come back, there's a scholarship waiting for you.
Oh, wow.
So that was always kind of ringing in my head.
He planted that seed.
I can remember my uncle must have been at the Carbondale Holiday Tournament, and he kind of planted a seed with my uncle. Looking back, this might be a recruiting violation, but they can't go back that many years, And he was like, I see Nick's, not playing a lot, but tell him that offer is still on the table. Yeah. And I remember my Uncle Norm calling me. It's like, I saw Jerry Kill down at the Carbondale Basketball Holiday Tournament, and I think he still wants you to come back and play quarterback for him. And so I remember that spring at Western Kentucky, I found myself going out to the football field, and the starting quarterback, Justin Haddix, at that time, I'm still friends with. We started throwing the ball around and things like that. And it just kind of, I don't know what it was, started praying about it, talking to my dad, Chris Lowry. Matt Painter was the head coach at the time that season, but then he left. But he was like, if you come back and on a football scholarship, you can for sure be on the team. Wow. So then that's when I started to say, I'm going to come back and play both sports. And that's the way it worked out.
Wow. That's great. So when you decided to come back, you back up Joel?
Backed up Joel, yeah.
For a year? Or?
I had to sit out the year because of the transfer rule, because Western Kentucky was actually in our conference. Yeah. So we put in a waiver. I didn't get it. And so I sit out, redshirt. I'm like the 5th string quarterback and scout team and the whole thing. Joel's the starter. And then that's 2004, Brandon Jacobs and those guys. 2005, I win the backup job. Joel's like Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. Right. To win the job in 2006, So that time not being the starter, it's a great learning period for you. Unbelievable. I wouldn't have been ready to do it when I first got there. And I have those personal conversations with guys on our team right now that are kind of in that situation, and telling them, like I've shared this before with young kids, is like, I really didn't make a significant impact on a team in college until my 4th year in college. Yeah. I played a little bit of basketball my true freshman year. I set out in 2004. I was a backup and got in like 3 games as Joel's backup in 2005. It wasn't until what would be my senior year and academically that I got to start and play in a real meaningful game in college. But those 3 years are what allowed me to be prepared for that moment.
Yeah, and it's hard to find that kind of patience in players today because they want that experience immediately, and there is so much value in being patient sometimes. And you see it with NFL quarterbacks who don't play immediately. Sometimes they sit and they grow and they mature and they get better, and sometimes that waiting is the best thing. Yeah. It's not easy though. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to play, but the guys that you recruit, I'm sure that's a big selling point, is trying to keep them at SIU and say, hey, listen, this could be a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing for you to wait your turn. Yeah. So when you become the starter, you're taking over for a Saluki legend. Yeah. Big shoes to fill, but you're very different quarterbacks. That probably helped that your style wasn't the same as Joel's. He's a very different quarterback than you were. How did you approach following him? Or did you think about it, or did you worry about it, or was it something, I'm Nick Hill and this is how I'm going to do it?
Yeah, I think looking back, that was probably how it was. I obviously knew I was so ready to play. Yeah. I wanted to compete and play. It was my 4th year in college, and I felt ready. I felt prepared. I think one of the strengths of Coach Kill's, what people ask me, what makes Coach Kill so good? It's it's not the X's, obviously knows the game, X's and O's and all of that. But it was like, I think he had my confidence so high to do it that I never thought twice about it. Like, sometimes the backup gets a lot of praise and, hey, that Joel is riding them. I think, I just went into it and I can remember training camp 2006, I'm going to be the starter. And then Coach Kill's tune really changed. He was riding me really hard. Like really hard.
Yeah.
And I can remember, I think I threw a couple picks in a scrimmage and he, put another quarterback in. And I remember he called me in his office the next day and he just told me, it was like, that day, that's the last time, like our relationship, like you're the starter, you're the guy, I'm 100% behind you. And like now our conversations are going to change. Like you've earned my respect and now just go be yourself. And there's no looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Coach Kill's in your corner.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of that office, like feeling pretty good about myself that like the head coach backs you. And there's something to be said about that.
Sure.
When a kid goes out there and doesn't know quite, like, does the coach believe in me?
Yeah.
Does he? And what that can make you even play that much better by just the confidence that your coach is putting in you. I think he instilled that in me.
Allowed you to play in a more fearless fashion, not worried about every little mistake. You could be Nick Hill instead of being worried. Yeah, that's awesome. I think what a cool thing, though. You said that he had you ready. Like a good coach like that isn't just coaching the starters, but he's prepping those other guys to be ready. And I'm sure that's something you've taken from Coach Kill. What a gift he's got for going into places like Southern or like where he's been in New Mexico and to be able to go in there and create that sense of confidence to win in places that haven't been winning.
Right. No, there's no doubt. That's what he's special at.
So Final Four, 2007, pretty special year, obviously. Anything you want to talk about that season in particular? I mean, you make it to the semifinals. You're playing against now the legendary Joe Flacco, the ageless wonder in the NFL. So, what do you think back on that season? What do you remember most?
I think just, I was able to talk to Mike Reese about this and some of his last, we did a little segment together and how special that season was because it's kind of like reflecting back where we're at right now as a program. Yeah. So if you're a freshman on our team or maybe a sophomore, you're used to going to the playoffs and maybe winning one game.
Yeah.
And so by the time I became a senior, I had been a part of, in 2004, we were the number 1 seed, got upset in the first round. But then in 2005, we won one game, got beat. 2006, I became the starter. We won one game, got beat by Montana. And I can remember just the team being like, we have to become a national seed to play our games at home, and we're not settling for anything less. It's not just one win in the playoffs isn't good enough anymore. We've had like 6 teams that have done that. Yeah. What are we going to do? And to win that home game against UMass, to know we were going to the semifinals and getting a crack at the Final Four. Now we ultimately, there's still the 1983 team that went further than us, but to go to this was the 108th year of Saluki football, and to say we went second most wins and do that, it was a special group. Wish we could have won that because it was a good game.
It's a good game.
And I reflected on it this year with Nick. Baker we had a chance to go on a 2-minute drive in that game, and I threw an interception. We got beat 20-17, and that's one that you live with the rest of your life. And we played in overtime this year, and Nick threw a pick in overtime and thought he had a guy and just made a bad throw, and it was same. And I felt myself in that press conference knowing what Nick was going through. Sure. I can remember sitting next to Jerry Kill in the press conference and just feeling so like I let my teammates down, and this is how it's going to end, because that was my last throw ever in college. Yeah. And for Nick to be that and to just know that like it's going to sting and you'll look back, and it always will. Even now, like kind of gets me a little bit.
Thanks for bringing it up. Right?
But no, it's one that you'll reflect. But like Nick, I don't think Nick will ever have any regrets on how he played the game, how he prepared, what teammate, and so you can go to bed at night, and I think all of his teammates in that moment, how they rallied behind, but if you were a different type of teammate, one that was maybe arrogant and all that kind of stuff, it would be like, well, he almost deserved that. You know, he thought it, but Nick was different. And so maybe we could have went to a national championship, and we're still hunting that today. You know?
So you graduate, you leave Saluki Football, and you're not done playing. So what's driving you beyond SIU?
Yeah, I never thought that I would be a professional football player. Obviously, I mean, 4 years before I was playing basketball, you know, and so just an opportunity. And I think, and I talked to our guys about this, you know, that everybody wants to play in the NFL, and I was happy to be there, you know, but then scouts and agents and things like that start, sign with an agent, and they think that I could be a late round draft pick, or I can, you know, if I'm for sure going to sign with a team. I didn't even think that was possible. And so I leave to go train, and they're prepping me and pro days and multiple teams and the day of the draft, you know, that whole day. And so ended up picking the Bears and going up there, and, man, it was an unbelievable opportunity for me. I think that it's something now looking back, like, most of us would pay for that opportunity. You know, to think back that some of my coaches, Brian Urlacher is in the team meeting, you know, and you're like, this is unbelievable, you know, and the knowledge that you learn and stuff. I told our team the other day about taking notes. We were having a book club on Wednesday, and I saw some guys not with their notebook, and the reason I bought you those notebooks is like, I would never come up to this office without a notebook. You know, write things down. And so it doesn't matter if you're in there watching film on your own. You might have a thought, you need to put it down. Maybe that's a conversation with another coach another day, or you hear something in this team meeting, write it down. And I was saying that because I told DJ Williams, our new quarterback, came into my office, and he saw I had a notebook from 2008 Chicago Bears. And I was like, I can go back to day 16 install, and this is what I was thinking, and this is what I got to, you know, coaching points, and it's just all handwritten. And I still have it. And just the information there. And so people always ask, I can remember getting cut in training camp and calling my parents, you know, calling my dad, you know, they're upset and like sad. My mom's the consoler. And it's just like, I can remember the peace coming back, driving down 57, you know, we're in training camp. So I'm coming back down and just thankful to God that I just got to be a part. I got cut, but I don't have any regrets. It's not like I could have, you know, studied harder at night. You know, it's just the NFL it's tough. There's 80 guys, and it starts getting cut down to 53. You know, I tell people all the time, when sometimes these people are talking about these pro quarterbacks, he's not any good. I'm like, you know, there's 64 professional active, you know, to a team in the world. In the world. So if you break it down like that, like, he's the 60th best at his profession in the entire world. You know, we got doctors and lawyers, and there's thousands of those. You know, and they're awesome. Like, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. If they're making a final roster as a quarterback, they might not play well out there on a Sunday, but you don't understand how hard that is. And so my time, and then going to play arena football, I knew that I wasn't done. I still had that competitive edge. You didn't make any money. I remember I signed with the Arizona Rattlers. The league went defunct. The head coach there, he's still the head coach, Kevin Guy. He talks me into going down to McAllen, Texas. It's a border town, for $200 a week, and if you win, you make $250. But they give you a place to stay. And they told me that for every touchdown you get, the team will pay you $25 a touchdown. It was like an incentive. And I led the league in touchdowns that year. Like, you throw it every down. You got like 107 touchdowns in the season. And a coach that I had played against, Pat O'Hara. And then in my bio, so Jay Gruden was the head coach of the Orlando Predators. But then they came out with the UFL, and Jay went. So when I got there, Pat O'Hara, who I played for 2 years. So I never played under Jay Gruden.
I got you.
At the time, but he was there when I learned the game and then he went to the UFL. And Pat, who they all got let go. He was the quarterback coach the last 4 years of the Tennessee Titans. And so lived in Orlando, and then, you know, Green Bay. It's hard to get signed back. You know, that was my goal. Like, let me keep playing and get signed back. But the Packers brought me up for a workout, and they ended up signing me, and I got to kind of do the whole thing over again like I did with Chicago. Never made the final roster, but I was in the quarterback room. There was three of us. Graham Harrell, who's the offensive coordinator now for Purdue, and
Texas Tech,
all-time leading passer in college football history. Aaron Rodgers and myself for like 8 weeks. And now looking back on that, I mean, if you would auction that off at an auction, like, hey, you get to go with Mike McCarthy, Ben McAdoo ended up being the Giants head coach, was my quarterback coach. So McCarthy, McAdoo, Rodgers, Graham and myself for like 8 weeks, just going through quarterback school and off season and run cut-ups, pass cut-ups. And it was just invaluable. The how to be a professional, just watching Aaron every day. The respect that I gained for him, he gets a bad rap, but he's incredibly intelligent,
Is that the biggest takeaway? What is the biggest takeaway being around him? We all know he can throw the ball. We all know it. But what's the big takeaway? What are you left there saying, this is what makes him special? Anything stand out?
Well, he took me to Whistling Straits to golf one time, so that upped my respect for him. He came in and he had the whole Whistling Straits where they played the U.S. Open and the Ryder Cup, and he was on the board and it said there was 12 slots, and he had Graham and my name already written in. He said, so there's 10 left, and I'm paying for it all.
Wow.
And you have a caddy and all this stuff, and the only thing we had to do was tip our caddy. And I was like, so Jordy Nelson and everybody would go down and play Whistling Straits, and I was like, man, I really like this guy now. And but no, I think he gets a bad rap. Like, you hear about Tom Brady and you hear about Peyton Manning and just the detail of their studying. And Rodgers is the same way. Yeah. He's just he's a different personality. Like the smartest player that I've ever, he's a savant. Yeah. Because his mind works different, but he can recall, like, you remember in 2009 when they brought that pressure, you know what I mean? Like, but he doesn't promote himself like that. No. He's promoting a lot of other stuff, but deep down, the studying and the discipline and the team, that's why his teammates love him. Sure. You've never heard a teammate come out and talk about, like, they talk about when the Jets, he galvanized them. Yeah, he did. Inside that locker room, he's a phenomenal teammate.
They gave him some kind of award, and he didn't even play this year. But it was like some kind of Teammate of the Year award. Someone once described, I thought this was a pretty good description based on what I know about him. He's the smartest guy in the room, and he knows it.
Yeah, and that's true.
But it's true. It's not like,
But you can't just not study and not take your job seriously if to do that. Yeah. He's put the time in. Yeah. He's just like a Brady or a Manning as far as the game. And just, I think, the most talented thrower of the football maybe ever. Him, Elway, some guys that it was, just watching him at practice 7-on-7, just throws that, I was there, but it's almost like, man, I don't want to go after him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
15-yard comebacks, routes on air, Aaron goes, and there's only 3 of us. So at some point, I'm in the rotation behind him, and it's like,
your ball doesn't look the same.
No, definitely not. Not close.
Yeah. Can I go first? Yeah. So you have some high school experience through this process. The Packers, I guess, let you go, and then you start coaching. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I got my start when I was living in Florida. I started coaching high school because arena football, the Arena Bowl is at the beginning of August. So then you have the fall off, that's the off season. So I'm like, my first off season, I came back here. Alicia and I got married. She had graduated. She moved down there with me, and she was teaching and coaching. And so I was able to, coach, and I was off. I found West Orange High School. First time I got to call plays.
Where's that at in Florida?
It's in Winter Garden, Orlando.
Okay.
So just 20 minutes outside the city of Orlando, gotcha. And a big high school, had like 3,500 kids in it, and got to coach. And just my first time, calling plays, being the quarterback coach and offensive staff, and just I knew I wanted to. That was my degree, is teaching. Yeah. So, got my feet wet doing that. And then we decided to move back here, the following year. And, I didn't even move back here knowing that I was going to become Carbondale High School's coach. If you remember, I got the job like in late June or something like that.
I hated to hear that too.
Yeah. And so, but I knew I wanted to coach, and then ended up becoming the head coach at Carbondale. And it's just you guys beat us, out-coached us in that game, got big. I can remember, it's crazy how you remember that.
Yeah.
You guys had I think you only completed one pass the whole game.
I think so too.
and it was like, I'm over there, trying to score like 50 points, and we never touched the ball. It was a great plan. It was a great plan.
Yeah.
It was a good game. So I love that. And honestly, that offseason, Coach Martin was talking about, I loved Carbondale High School. I think I even, talked to you about like, this is the type of school that I would love to be at.
Yeah.
They haven't been great. There was an attachment to those kids and the ones that committed and hey, we went to the playoffs, but a coach needs to be there for them, in the off season and all these things. And I can remember meeting with DuQuoin, the administration, and Coach Martin basically, telling me, when you're ready to come back and be DuQuoin's coach, that's what we want. And I was like, I'm not ready to leave Carbondale, and decided to stay at Carbondale. And my brother ended up being the head coach.
He did.
But
did a great job.
That was so Coach Martin stayed on at DuQuoin and coached in 2013. Mm-hmm. My brother graduated in 13 and then eventually took over, I believe, in 15. So Coach Martin kept coaching another 2 years. But, it was just my coaching profession. And I've shared this. I shared this at the FCA talk and when I've had a talk at conventions, and I got into coaching college and never had to move. And that's rare. That's really rare. Yeah. And so for Dale Lennon to just call me, Kalen DeBoer, now which is a big name, is the head coach at Alabama, leaves to go to Eastern Michigan. So now there's a spot on staff. Bubba went to become the head coach at North Dakota and took a couple guys. And so Hedberg left to go to North Dakota State. And so there was new offensive staff, and now Bill O'Boyle was there, O-line coach. So they hired me to be the quarterback coach, Kalen leaving, and never had to move, So I really wrestled with that decision, though. I met with Dale, and then I came home and talked to Alicia, and it's just like, if I'm ever going to give it a shot, this would be the time to do it. We don't have to pick up and move. We don't have kids, but I decided to do it, and I've been there. This will be my 11th season in a row, there.
Yeah,
so
that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny, though, like you mentioned Kalen DeBoer, and here he is at SIU on an SIU staff. And if you would have told him in just a few short years, you'll be the head coach at Alabama, right? And here you are head coach at Carbondale. You take this quarterback job, and you have no idea what's about to come to fruition for you career-wise.
Right. I think, and Stephen, talking about Kalen, a lot of people have asked me about him. Because now they see his resume, and it shows Southern Illinois for 4 years. And Kalen's a great guy. He's humble. He's, I believe, like, for me, even, like, he's the type of guy, like, if I would text Kalen now, I'd probably get a response in the next 15 minutes, text after wins, he's following you, and he's the head coach at Washington. I don't think he ever took the job. I think he's done a great job where he was at. He did the best job he could at Southern Illinois. Then he went to Eastern Michigan. And if you talk and I would always want that to be said, when you talk to the people that have worked with Kalen DeBoer, what did they say about him? Treat you with respect, humble. You never have been to a practice and hear him cussing out kids. He doesn't even curse. He did the best job he could at each. And I think that if it's meant to be, then you're going to get rewarded for that. Right. He wasn't chasing different jobs. Right. He's been loyal to his head coaches. And then you see that how he's put together his staff now. He's been loyal to the people that were still with him at Sioux Falls. And I think it's a testament that there's great coaches at every level.
There is.
There's great coaches at every level. He was winning national championships at Sioux Falls.
That's right.
And he's running the same plays and the same philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, he's grown over the time.
Yeah.
But so is Ryan Grubbs, his college teammate at Sioux Falls, and now he's getting $2 million a year to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But they're the same people that 12 years ago they were coaching NAIA football.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a great testament. I like seeing people like that rewarded in the profession.
Me too. We need more of that.
Yeah.
And I put you in that category, and I think that's what's special about it. And then from the quarterback coaching job, you become the offensive coordinator, and the offense goes to a new level. So big adjustment, or was that an easy transition from quarterbacks to, or did you have a big part of the offense anyway?
Yeah. No, it was, and a good friend of mine too, a fishing buddy, Bill O'Boyle, you know, who was the offensive line coach for Colorado this year and is now the offensive line coach at Northwestern, was the OC in 2004. And I really took the job in 2014 and I'm like, I want to take this opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going to be the quarterback coach. I'm going to learn a new offense. I'm going to get to coach the quarterbacks, but I'm going to do, you know, learn. And I remember I walked in, Coach O'Boyle, he's like, you're doing all the pass game. I don't do the pass, you know, I'll do the runs, you do the pass game. And I'm like, so just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just everything, you know? And so we kind of co-called it that year.
Yeah.
You know, probably not the best line, how you would want to do it.
Yeah,
you know,
but you got your feet wet.
He was, and so, you know, third down, we're passing it, Nick, you know, what do you want? And so you learn along the way. And then in 2015, Coach Lennon was like, you know, Nick's going to call the plays.
Oh, wow.
And so same staff. And so, again, I think players make coaches look good, you know, and had Mark, who was tough as nails.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a good offense. We didn't win a lot of games. And then Coach Lennon got let go. But so that was my first year, you know, calling plays.
Yeah.
So really even, and I tell young coaches this all the time, if I had to pick to do it all over again, I would enjoy a time of going and like GAing and then kind of having that mentor in coaching in the college ranks.
Yeah.
You know, that you learned it. Or if I, you know, like my buddy John Van Dam, who was we're the exact same age. He was the offensive coordinator I hired in 16 and 17. He's won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. He's the tight ends coach for the Bucs. He's interviewing tomorrow for the Buccaneers offensive coordinator job.
Wow.
And a great friend. But he got to GA with Saban at Alabama. And then Nussmeier, who is his like mentor, took him to Michigan. And then he gets his feet wet. And he watched the guy do it.
Yeah.
And where I just kind of got thrown in is like your first college game, you're calling plays.
Yeah,
and it's like, hey, I don't know if I'm, you know what I mean? Is this you sound or is this the way we, I'm just going to do it how I've been doing it in high school too, and learn. Yeah. So it really forced me to like watch, clinic, make sure that this is the installs, how are we teaching? And then you just learn along the way by failing a little bit, and then in 16, just getting thrown right into being the head coach, then you have a lot to learn with that. And so you start in 16, right? Head coach. And it's not an easy start. No.
And the thing about, I think most people who are listening or watching understand, you can be pretty good in this conference and have nothing to show for it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a playoff game almost every week.
Right.
And even if they're non-playoff teams, they're losing to playoff teams. So the records can be thrown. I mean, and here you are becoming a head coach at a young age, and you've not had that mentorship like you some guys have, but you found a way, Coach.
Yeah.
You found a way, and the turnaround, I think, if I'm right, begins about 2019.
Right.
So what do you think brought the turnaround? Was there something you did? Is it just the learning process? Was there something you did different? How did you flip the script and start winning football games? Yeah,
it was a learning process. I think what you thought, that you could do. And I always believed that we were on the right track, even when we were losing, as far as the vision and how we got to get there, how we need to treat the kids, and the culture is the most important, and hiring a great staff, treating everybody the right way. But I believe that just probably in recruiting and the mentality and just shifting a little bit in recruiting, who we played and self-studying. And then in 2019, I think, that's year 4 for the guys that we had recruited.
Huge.
But we were 2-4 to start 2019. And so, that I've said this in a talk before at some churches is, so you're 4-7, 4-7, 2-9. Jerry kills your AD, and then you start the season. So you've won 10 games. You're 12-27 or something as a head coach, and I can remember we had to play 2 FBS games that year. We beat UMass, but then we played Arkansas State as well. And then we lost our first 2 conference games. Illinois State ended up going to the quarterfinals, or like you said, we're playing good teams.
Yeah,
we knew we had a pretty good team. Jeremy Chin had gotten hurt, and the leadership on that team was changing. And I can remember Jeremy, obviously that year was going to be was a 2nd round pick. And he had plantar fasciitis really bad, missed 2 games. So did DJ Davis, our best running back. So we lose those first 2 conference games. We knew we had a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And I can remember, to get back on track, we played Youngstown State, who was ranked 14th or something in the country. They had just been in the national championship, and we had to win at homecoming, or we're going 2-5, and I'm probably getting fired. Yeah. And Jeremy didn't have to play, and had some agents and stuff saying you might want to just sit out the rest of the season. I can remember when he came back and he was like, "Coach, I'm playing."
Wow.
And we practiced that week. I knew we were going to win the game.
I love those weeks.
Yeah,
I do.
And it was we had the most competitive Tuesday, the most competitive Wednesday. The good on good was there was a spirit that just kind of changed. And I think Jeremy suiting back up was this guy's going to be a 2nd round pick. You know what I mean? We're 2-4. Yeah. And then we go 5 wins in a row. We win 5 games in a row in the Missouri Valley, which is super hard to do. And that year I felt that's probably one of our best teams. And then we lose to North Dakota State, who had won 25 games in a row, but we had the lead in the 4th quarter for the first time. Trey Lance is a 1st round pick. Yeah. He's the quarterback, and we get beat by a field goal. And then that's the year that we got snubbed in the playoffs, first team out on the bubble. Yeah. And that was the year Javon kind of took over. Nobody knew how to defend the Wildcat, and Javon's running wild on everybody. That Youngstown game, he threw for 1, caught 1, and had a receiving touchdown, first time in school history. So Javon, no one knows Javon. Yeah. I felt like that team, if we got in the playoffs, the momentum, it could have been one of our better teams, because we've won some games. And I'm like, that 2019 team, because even the confidence that we gained, North Dakota State just rolled everybody to a national championship, and we had them down in the 4th quarter in the last week like this, and we had winners of 5 of 6, and that's where it kind of changed. Yeah. And then the next year, COVID comes, but all these guys were back, and that's where people were, about the COVID season and all of that, but that team was so motivated to win. That's when we went to the quarterfinals and then got beat by South Dakota State in the last second of the game, and then winning breeds winning. There was an expectation finally. Sure. There was an expectation we're good enough. This is the expectation. This is how things are done. A little bit of trust in what we're doing works.
It reminds me of Joel telling me about the turnaround. It's very similar. Yeah. All of a sudden the mentality changed. It's funny, your story about coaching. When I came to Marion, we won 8 games the first 3 years. And then the 4th year, when I'm thinking, they're going to fire me. We were 2-4 at one time and won the last 3 and made the playoffs. But I mean, it was that close to thinking, if they don't fire me, I'm probably going to quit. Right. Because I'm just not getting it done. I love what you said about, have you ever had a week where you just knew you were going to win? I think Javon's senior year, which he was pretty tough to beat, maybe the best high school player, single player I ever coached against. And there was no reason to think we should win that ball game. It was at Centralia. It might have been senior night, But the game got canceled because the referees didn't show up, had to play Saturday afternoon, complete chaos, had to play a kid at tackle who'd never played tackle before. He was a last minute, they taught him the tackle position that night. Long story short, for some reason, I knew all week long, I think we're going to win this game. We're going to beat Javon. And I don't know why. There was no reason to think that. We weren't that good. And we did. But I remember writing on my play sheet on the bus ride to Centralia, we are going to win this game. I'm going to write it before the game.
Yeah.
And we did. And I don't know why I felt that way. It's just the way we practiced, the energy I don't know. I can't explain it, but I love that because I relate so well to that. Yeah. So great season again this year. You guys have made that turn. You put together several good years in a row. I do know we talked about this a little bit, but you were 5-6 in 2022, but you lost a lot of close games, right? That was one of those years where you were better than I think your record, injuries and so forth. But you bounced back with a great season, 8-5 again this year. An exciting team. I thought you were going to keep going in the playoffs, and so let's talk a little bit about where you're at right now. So you're now in off season. You're coming off a great year. Tell me about the recruiting process, how that's been, and tell me what the expectations are for 24.
Yeah, I would say we had a good season, not great season. And that was the messaging coming back. I mean. And I would say the seniors that are leaving, I don't think that these guys where we're at now is like, 8-5 is a great season. I think there's more, there's a hungerness, there's a kind of a sting in our stomach still. And
that's good.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Kind of like I referred back to 2007.
Yeah.
Hey, we've been to the playoffs now multiple years. There was a big string where Southern never went. Okay. You've almost got to that point. We've won a playoff game, but now how do you get to 12 wins? How do you get to 11 wins? How do you get to 10 wins in the regular season? How do you not lose these close games in November?
Right.
The one-score games. And, those one-score games aren't just random teams. They were against South Dakota State, and South Dakota was ranked number 1 and number 3 at the time.
Yeah.
So, but that's not changing next year. For us, we're going to play the same teams, and they're going to be ranked in the top 10.
That's right.
And so, and every team is doing those type of things. So I think it's just it's every day. And I tell our team, like, everything we do matters. We had morning workouts this morning, and it's, and we had the book club last night, and I said, how are you going to measure that? Are we growing? Because I think the secret sauce right now is in college athletics is with the transfer portal and everything is like, how do you build a cohesive team with so much turnover? If we can find that, that's the secret. Yeah. That's the secret of winning 17-14, which our games will probably in this league. That's how you have to be built.
Yeah.
On the road in a Dakota, it might not be your sexy 50-47, this is a physical league so it's like everything we do, and this could go for any high school kid. So the season's not until I had them write down goals, and I'm meeting with every player, and it's like, you put something on there for all conference, or we're going to win, a championship, but that can't be measured until next December.
That's right.
So how are you measuring if you got better this week? Like, what are the tangible things? And it maybe didn't register to me either at that time, but getting these kids to understand that, like, challenging yourself to be disciplined. And, like, when we say sit in the first 3 rows in class, did you sit in the first 3 rows?
Right.
Did you, in the lifts, or we can only have them for 8 hours a week. When the weight room was open on Saturday, were you in there? Yeah. You raised your hand that you want to go to the NFL, or you have that on there, but are your actions lining up with what you put as your goals?
Yeah.
And only you know deep down.
That's right.
And I think that correlates back to, like, in recruiting, is how we're going to get our guys to do that. I think the more guys that you can identify through recruiting, talking to high school coaches that you trust, like, this is that type of guy. Like, look at his track record, then usually those are the type of guys that you get in college too. And I think when you look back, like in 19, or how we were always signing great recruits, But I think for me, I learned that he might go on and be a good player somewhere else, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm going to find like our kind of guys.
Love that. Yeah, and so as your time as head coach, one of my questions was about the recruiting process. What are you looking for? I think you answered that. I'm looking for our guys.
Yeah.
They've got to fit. And probably matters more now than ever with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
You've got to find people that want to be a part of your culture and won't just take off at the first sign of adversity.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this day, you're never going to hit or not miss on, like you talk about in the draft, NFL players, like they say he's a miss. Like, he doesn't come here and he doesn't become an all-conference player or starter. But I tell our staff, like, we have to be 100% on hitting on their character and them as a person.
Right.
And now it happens so fast. There's some staffs that hey, I talked to him, he's in the portal. And then it's like, my question always, and probably our staff gets tired of me saying it, it's like, did you talk to I'm going to call his current head coach. Did you talk to his old high school coach?
Amen.
Did you find an old teammate? Like, there's a list of all these things that, if there's a red flag to find, we better be finding it.
Amen.
And you might have to find it in 48 hours.
I was going to say, because it's fast.
Because if not, then he's going on a visit somewhere else. And then, recruiting is, you're on your phone a lot, and because you recruit a lot of kids that you never sign, hundreds of them.
Yeah.
But you're not recruiting like just watching their tape.
Right.
You're digging into these type of things.
You have to. Right?
If not, you're gonna end up finding somebody that wrecks your locker room, and you're 4-7, but you could have been 9 wins.
And how many kids does it take to ruin your locker room?
Not many.
Not very many.
No.
It just takes a couple kids that can be that detrimental to your
Right.
program. And I love the fact that you've been so open about that recruiting process, because a big question I get is the portal and how do you navigate it. But when you build relationships the way you do, you're more likely to keep a kid involved in your culture because you've built a relationship. And you talked about kids eating together and being a guest with you and doing things. And you talk about you have them read a book together. Can you explain real quick something about that? So you mentioned they're reading the book. Like, what are they reading? And
So we do a book club every off season. Every Wednesday at 3:00 we get together. This is their 9th year for it. So we've always done a John Gordon book, Atomic Habits, something in that range. But honestly, for this year, I think a lot of guys that when I sit down, and really now that I've been a part of a couple cycles, now they're coming back. I'm getting invited to weddings, or they have kids. And, a lot of them talk about like not being prepared. And that almost is on me, like financial literacy. Like when you ask them, like, what could we do? Guest speakers. And it's like, bring in some financial literacy speakers. And you're doing that. And so we've done that. And then it's like, okay, just not the 1 hour talk, because you got to, they say that. I mean, now even me, it's like, so I had read a book, like a personal finance book. And I was like, man, the guys would really like to, it's the basics. Yeah. Credit cards, setting up your bank accounts correctly, investing, what's an index fund, showing them these maps to financial freedom and all those type of things, paying your bills and taxes. And so I'm like, this year we're doing that.
That's awesome.
And
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And so they're eating it up, and a lot of questions. Yeah. And it's like, raise your hand if this, what's interest rate, or how do you buy a house? Yeah. And it's crazy. We have 105 guys, and not many hands go up. But I'm like, I was the same way. I went to school to be a teacher. I didn't have any idea about taxes or filing your taxes or anything. But I just felt like when you do things like that, I think those kids see that I take an hour out of my week because this isn't going to help us X's and O's wise, but I care about you in your future. And I told them, like, when you come back, I want to see you being successful. Yeah. I want to see you knowing that you left here and you're going to gain the discipline and those type of things. Yeah. But if there's anything that we can do, or maybe this book then leads to you, getting off to a better start, or your credit score. And it's crazy. I asked them last night, there's probably 40 kids on our team. I had no idea how many would. Like, how many of you guys have a credit card? And then 40 guys have credit cards. They're 20 years old. You know, probably 40 of them made a mistake or not paid the bill. And then they get out and their credit score is 450 or 500, and they can't, you know, when they get married, get a house, and now they're behind.
Sure.
And so anything that you can do, like, I want to make their lives as good as they can because they were a part of Saluki Football.
But let me say this. So, not to correct what you said, but to add to it. Because you're investing in a non-football thing, that resonates with the culture you're trying to build. But he really does care about me as a person, because this is non-football related, but it's post-football, and in a way, it does help
the wins. I agree.
It does.
100%.
And because win the team first. You got to win the team for the team to win the games, and you're doing that.
And I told our staff that before why we picked that book. And I think, like, when I say, like, everything does matter, like the book club, and when you evaluate, I said this yesterday. We have a new transfer corners from Division II, and really enjoy just a couple weeks around him. Like, I think, like, he has a maturity about him, and even in those settings, nothing to do with football. You know, when you ask a question, you know, raise your hand, or we open it up. Like, what hit you in this chapter, you know? And I told the staff, like, he raised his hand twice, like, with confidence. He's on a brand new team. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Not afraid to ask, though.
Not afraid to say something. Yeah. Like, he read the book, obviously. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then number one, he has confidence. Sure. He has great body language. You can read the room. Like, who's got great body language? Like, who we told him to read chapter 2. Who really read chapter 2? Yeah. You know, if you're raising your hand and want to chime in on, like, hey, on page 42, it said this. He read the book. Like, you're already learning about your team in settings like that. Absolutely. You can. At all times.
Almost in some ways in a better way.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing something that's here. Yeah. You know, congratulations on the Grant Tapp FCA award. I mean, that is huge, because for those who don't know, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Grant Tapp, an amazing coach, Baylor guy, and went on to be the president of FCA. And they've named this award after him, given to a coach that embodies what FCA is all about. And did you? I guess someone had nominated you for that, and
it was a very, very humbling award, and I agree. One that I'll treasure over any wins or anything. I mean, I think Justin Raby was behind.
I wondered
behind
about
it, and
but deservedly
I didn't know. I guess probably all the FCA directors, now that I found out that I won the award, can nominate a coach. Yeah. So probably, you know, all the FCA directors in the entire country nominate a college coach to be it. And I guess he wrote a letter, got a player to write a letter, got an assistant coach to write a letter, and then to be chosen. It was humbling for sure. And, you know, you know, I'm happy that, and even in that, I don't like the recognition and per se, but for my name to be affiliated with FCA or getting an award because your belief in Christ, like, I'll take that any day.
Amen, brother.
You know, and so if the amount of texts that I got from assistant coaches around the country, or, you know, just to know that this is who I am, you know, and this is what I believe, and I believe that this is how we're going to treat the kids and the coaches and the support staff, and not just saying it, but for other people, you know, Justin, who's a great friend. We just had FCA this morning, started a new thing and had like 25 guys in it. It was awesome. And to be recognized for that, like, it's humbling.
Yeah. Well, you know? I want to say that's it's a big deal. And I'm proud to say I know you, and we have a relationship.
Yeah.
And when I saw that you had won that, I was just thrilled to see that recognition. Your wife, coach's wife, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Got 3 daughters living right there in DuQuoin, and you, I'm sure she's a big part of this. She was a Saluki athlete herself. Yeah. And so I'm sure she's your partner in this whole thing, man.
Yeah, no, I think it's number one. I mean, it's definitely not easy, but Alicia and I have been married for 12 years. Yeah. And 3 kids now. Skylar and Charlie's got birthdays coming up. They'll be 8 and 6. And then Presley, it will be 9 months this here in like a week too. And so, 8, 6, 9 months, and you're Coach Steele's gone a lot, or this week, I was in Mississippi recruiting, and you're gone. It's just, I think it's faith, number one, because to be a great husband, you have to be, your walk with Christ is going to make you a better husband. Amen. And I hope my wife feels the same way. Yeah. Because she's going to be a better wife if she's walking close with the Lord. Amen, brother. And then number 2, I believe it's your family, starting with your wife. And you have to just include them in everything. As much time as we're away is like, just it's a family business. It's a family thing tonight. Anytime we got 2 of our off-season teams coming over, like my 3 girls get to be around all these older boys that love them like little sisters,
and they see you around
your wife and kids. And I think it's so important. I tell our staff that all the time. Like, it was Coach James when he first got here, our defensive coordinator, who's outstanding, also a man of Christ, is like, hey, is it okay? Like, their kids are homeschooled. Like, if they come up here, and I was like, Antonio, I think like the guys in your room like are going to learn more about you as a man if your son that's 6 is sitting over in the corner with an iPad. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're seeing you as we always talk about molding them as men and stuff. They have to see it.
All sides.
So so then your kids and wives have to be around. Yeah. If we can't just say we're all about family, and it's like, where's the families? Like, you have to have them at your house. You have to be around them. And how I treat Alicia and without a understanding wife, you couldn't coach in college, and if you leave me home for one full day, in the off season, with what she has to do every single day. Yeah. I know. So I'm like ready to go back to the office, go back to work, great family, and being back in DuQuoin has been awesome. And most important thing.
I know you're an outdoorsman, and you probably the way you recharge is to not only be with family, but be outdoors and fish and hunt, which I think is really cool. And you got the great place down here to do it. But I don't know what the future holds for you, as far as I'm sure there are people that knock on your door and say, come some other place. And jobs like yours sometimes can be a stepping stone to something bigger and brighter and bolder. And I'm sure you've had those offers. I won't put you on the spot, but I know that, speaking on behalf of the people in this area, man, we want you to stay here as long as you possibly can. I hope it's a career that lasts many years. We're blessed to have you as the Saluki head football coach.
I appreciate that.
Love what you do on the field, off the field, family. You are building relationships with young men that need it badly, and they're coming from situations sometimes where they don't see that kind of family environment, and you're providing that, and I think it's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing today and telling us how you're navigating the rough waters of transfer portals and all that stuff, Nick. And I cherish our friendship and your leadership, and man, I just appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And like I talked about the other Coach Martin, I feel the same for you. I didn't play for you, but just I can remember you sharing a devotional and talking to our team when I was a player, and just seeing you and knowing your faith and how you treat people, and just someone that I've always looked up to. You know that, and I've told you that before. But you've set a great example for young coaches in the area, and I value our friendship and the texts and. Sometimes it's a lonely seat in the head coach.
Is it?
And I one of my best friends is Brian Mullins.
Sure.
And it's you win and you beat Northwestern and you got 425 text messages, and then you lose and you got one from your dad and brother. But oftentimes you're checking on me. And having those people, and what you sign up for. But it's sometimes you get it, and understanding that, and so I appreciate all the the support and being a great mentor to me.
It'll be there, and I look forward to seeing you at spring ball real soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
coming
excited.
out and watching.
Yeah,
I'd love to come out and watch. I appreciate that. And hey, I want to thank you for watching and listening again to Coach Hill today. What a blessing. What an awesome storyteller and a great guy to kind of share with us what makes him tick and what makes him motivated to go out and do what he does every day. And thank you again, Coach. And thanks to Ross and Abby, and thanks to Swinford Media Group, Crown Brew, and my buddies at Adrenaline. And look forward to seeing you again next week. Appreciate your viewership and watching and listening. And we'll see you next week.